Walks onto stage. Good whatever, lady and gentlemen. Cockburn. I mean Saltburn. Pauses. What was that all about? I would not have watched Saltburn if it was not for Sophie Ellis-Bextor's song. Murder on the Dance Floor. I was interested to see where it was used and why it had engaged the next generation. Pauses. Plus it was free, for me. Oh yeah, before I forget. Spoilers. Smirks. Turned out, all the fuss was due to a naked man dancing through a stately home. To murder on the dance floor. After murdering the previous owners. Looks left. Saltburn is a black comedy. Looks right. Without any obvious jokes. Smirks. The humor is in the observation. Those who know, know. And its extremes. Pauses. Equally, there is more than a few ways to view the story. Rolls eyes. It's like a De Beers diamond that has been passed through an American XL bully. Pauses. You will need a strong constitution, tolerant frame of mind, and willpower to watch all of it. It is water off the duck's back for the suicidal Generation Z's. The shit they have to put up with makes rape and beatings seem like cream cakes. Pauses. Saltburn is Felix's family estate. Felix is the center of attention at Oxford University, and is the protagonist in Saltburn. Whilst Oliver, the outsider, is the antagonist. The whole manner in which Saltburn is played is topsy-turvy. Pauses. With the thrust of the story being stranger danger. To the fabulously wealthy. Rolls eyes. At least, that is one obvious perspective. Some reviewers noticed the way the movie is rolled up. With a reveal montage at the end. And the inserted blip vert at the beginning. This is for our American cousins. Smirks. The core of Saltburn is extremely subtle. Though overspiced, with distasteful, tastefully done sex scenes. Paul's funny face. Yeah. There's a lot in Saltburn that is best left out. Though. Nothing is in it that does not add to the layers in the story. Or should that be stories? Pauses. If you watch the surface of Saltburn, it is a cautionary tale. Of a wolf in sheep's clothing. Yet. It is more than that. Oliver does appear infatuated with Felix. And his social life. The murder of Felix appears to be a spur-of-the-moment decision. Following Felix's reaction to discovering Oliver's parents were not as reported. Oliver's father was alive, and worse still. Tediously middle class. Pauses. It is at this point Oliver panics, with his fear of sliding down a social snake. In the game of social snakes and ladders. Having climbed to such dizzy heights. Oliver was not about to let a little thing, such as deception. Or even Felix's death destroy what had been gained. Smirks. I feel sorry for those who only see drama. Where there is clearly humor. However dark. Looks left. Have we not been exposed to such darkness of late? Looks right. Can we not laugh in the face of death anymore? Has everything become so serious? Pauses. The beginning of Saltburn is a relatively benign story of a first-year scholarship student's last term at Oxford University. Having discovered his social class is oddball. Oliver finds friendship with Felix following a most fortuitous bicycle rescue. Felix pays Oliver for his rescue with a kiss on his helmet. And for some time, Oliver is allowed into Felix's social circle. Though constantly kept in his place. There are many aside conversations and comments that construct beams of light that pass through this turd-covered diamond. Pauses. Farley, Felix's cousin, constantly rubs Oliver's nose in his social position. You're almost passing as a real human boy. A reference to Pinocchio, the wooden toy that wants to live. Pauses. All of the Saltburn characters have deeply unpleasant flaws. Even Felix is portrayed as a minotaur. The half-man, half-bull beast that demands annual sacrifices of men and women. Looks left. Do you think Sir James Catton is Felix's father? Looks right. Unlikely given Elspeth Catton's character and the darkness of Saltburn. Nothing is what it appears. Pauses. Oliver is called a spider and moth by the other characters. But it turned out Oliver was a wolf in sheep's clothing. At least in his mind. Seeking a long-term commitment with a minotaur. Smirks. Saltburn is a stately home. Stately homes are large houses, constructed by aristocrats to house their family, friends, and unflushables. Oliver is unimpressed. Arriving at Saltburn under his own steam. With just one bag. Duncan is the only member of staff given face time in Saltburn. Portrayed as a modern lurch, a fearfully formal manservant, who only manages to display emotion at the end of the film, whilst trying to close a curtain. Pauses. So subtle. Saltburn is in one sense a suicide roller coaster. And all about how light hits the surface of the turd-covered diamond. Smirks. The Minotaur and the maze plays a pivotal role in Saltburn. This is where Felix is murdered by Oliver. At first glance, for self-preservation. And if Theseus, to end the Minotaur's reign of terror. Though, the hints at this are subtle. Pauses. As a spurned lover, Oliver feels like the many jilted lovers in Felix's life. With the most obvious, bouncing onto Oliver's loins, back at Oxford. Until Oliver bluntly suggests, Felix saw her as consumable. Like a Durex. Size. Felix's body is found at the Minotaur's statue, in the center of the maze. The Cattons grew up with the maze, and know the quick route to its center. Unlike the police. Oliver knew the quick route too. Being intelligent, and having studied the maze's model. Pauses. Duncan is working class, as Oliver reports to be. Yet, they never break character. Never communicate casually. Even with his own kind, Oliver is an outsider. Pauses. Oliver is Pamela's replacement, in a sense. With her desperate situation, Elspeth feeds on her condition. Whilst taking in a new bird, with a broken wing. Which is Oliver. Pauses. Pamela makes the group 5 go mad in Saltburn. Pauses. Oliver treats Saltburn as another university social. Feeling like a fish out of water when away from Felix. Unable to strike up idle conversation. Not knowing the etiquette. Even on a table filled with junk and jelly beans. Smirks. Sir James is a keep calm and carry on guy. Or should that be Sid James? With a dining room scene at the end of film. Resembling a posh version of the dining scene from Carry On Up the Khyber. With the Cattons trying to eat their meat pie as the police coroner retrieves Felix's corpse from the maze. Pauses. The fall of an empire. Pauses. For a library, the library has few books. Smirks. Oliver is welcomed into the Cattons' lair. Dismissing the admission, they had all been discussing Oliver's tragic family history. With Felix gesturing to Oliver that he had forgotten to remove a slip of blooded paper from his upper lip. Having nicked himself during his obligatory daily shave. Totally chilled. And here he is now. Elspeth gets right up in Oliver's face. Compliments him, whilst insulting him. Of all the Saltburn characters, Elspeth is the nicest to Oliver. Her simplistic and open book nature contributes to her demise. Pamela would do anything for attention. Even successfully suicide herself. Oliver blames himself a little for encouraging Elspeth to remove Pamela from Saltburn. But not enough to suicide. Smirks. Everything is great for Oliver. For a while. As he soaks in the warmth of Saltburn. Taking in the sights. And daytime activities. Until he discovers Felix does not like to share his toys. Toys, in this case, being Oliver. Pauses. Whilst most topics are on side in humor. Sexual comedy, and especially dark sexual comedy, is generally out of bounds. Saltburn leads the audience along the garden path. Of sexual perversion and animal desires. To, of all things, a bath plug. Pauses. Once there, it walks the audience down the garden stairway. To bloody oral sex. Intended to excite. Or else, elicit some kind of a response. It is one way to bring up the practicalities of responding to spontaneous desires. Smirks. It was not clear if Felix knew Oliver had lied about his family and his father's death. The birthday trip to his mother may have been a genuine attempt to help. At least initially. Certainly Oliver had not planned for the event. Sliding painfully down the social snake. Cringing as his tedious middle-class upbringing is revealed in minuscule detail to Felix. Felix's main gripe is that Oliver lied to him. Just to be his friend. Pauses. At Oliver's Midsummer Night's Dream birthday party, Oliver is Puck. The mischievous fairy who manipulates events and delights in playing pranks. Looks left. Here the story peels away from reality and into a murder mystery. Without the mystery, and possibly any murder. For some reason, from Oliver's present-day narrative, he portrays himself as a mastermind super serial killer, wiping out the Catton family and taking ownership of Saltburn. Yet the events that lead to Felix's death are benign. Even the most plotting of police tend to suspect the person who was last seen with the victim. And Oliver was very much seen to be the last person to see him alive. What convincing story could Oliver have given to the police to suggest Felix took an overdose after talking to him? What about background checks, witness statements and alibis? Fortunately, Oliver narrates these away with, only rich people have accidents. Indicating scandal is why the police and courts ignored procedure. Looks left. Where's the whodunit? Looks right. Only Columbo tells you who did it, then shows you how the murder was performed. Here, the murderer narrates their kills. And genius. To the next victim. Pauses. Perhaps Oliver creates the super serial killer narrative to justify his inheritance. Anyway, if you follow the contours of the narrative at surface level, Puck follows the Minotaur to the center of the maze to confront and kill the beast. Saving its next victim, Theseus dispatches the beast with his bare hands and a bottle full of heroin, then makes his way back to his kingdom. Pauses. The death of Felix scene is framed at an angle, with the Minotaur and wings in view. The despair at the death of one of their own is captured perfectly, with Oliver playing innocent. For the greater good. For the greater good. Smirks. Onto the grave scene. If, at this point, you are still taking Saltburn seriously, you have no sense of humor. You can read the whole story straight, because it is played straight, which makes it even more amusing. Pauses. I enjoy my comedy, obviously comical. The king of comedy and Spinal Tap are not my cup of tea. Neither are spunky bath water, menstruating oral sex, and grave fucking. Whilst obviously comical within the setting of a stately home drama, they miss my funny bone. Rolls eyes. Venetia's suicide, or the second murder, comes shortly after Felix's death. The trauma of her brother's death was too much for her. Or else Oliver disliked her attitude, so murdered her. Or encouraged her to kill herself. Whatever. Pauses. I think most people forget the jump in time from 2007 to present day, with a happy meeting of Oliver after Sir James Catton's death. Elspeth hints that Sir James should have died earlier, and her distress at Oliver being paid to leave Saltburn. It is in this penultimate, closing scene, that the audience discover Oliver is confessing his crimes to an incapacitated Elspeth. In a somewhat Machiavellian manner, Oliver proceeds to mount her, then remove her breathing tube, holding her in his arms as she dies. Pauses. Whilst this act is not at all amusing, or the act of an innocent, there is a complete lack of context. The perspective is that of the super serial killer, who plays possum for a decade or two to claim the prize. Saltburn. Pauses. Does this seem likely, or is it the imaginative construction of a tedious middle class, never was, who enjoys making shit up, with the social skills of a spider or moth? Remember, his best friend at university was a maths genius, who gave him a crunchy, then ate it himself, and autistically screamed at him to give him a hard multiplication at a social evening. Pauses. More likely, Elspeth caught COVID. Understanding the estate would go elsewhere, decided to give it to Oliver, Felix's best friend ever, and when it came close to the end, asked Oliver to suicide her in exchange for Saltburn. Pauses. As for the ending scene, containing Sophie's murder on the dance floor, collecting tokens, such as the gravestones, is a typical serial killer trait. Dancing naked through the rooms, once introduced to him by Felix, is celebratory. And a big fuck you to Farley, Felix's cousin. This place, it's not for you. Smirks. Interestingly, Emerald Fennell's favorite film is The Shining, which is probably why Saltburn is framed so richly, with the artistry providing the variance of interpretation. Pauses. However you decide to interpret Saltburn, you will never look at a bath plug in the same way again. Peace, I am out of here, word up. Exits stage left.